Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reign of Troy Radio, episode 492, coming to you on Monday, July 24th. We're going to talk about the latest in USC football, including all the goings-ons at Pac-12 Media Day, which went down last week in Las Vegas. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Reign of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Reign of Troy. Our email address is reignoftroy@fanside.com. Our phone number on the rant line, 818-643-7227. And as always, I'm your host, Michael Castillo, joined along with my co-host here in the Radio Troy studio in Los Angeles, Elisa Deratola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, we are back. We talk every year and I know this is probably annoying that we say this every year. Pac-12 Media Day, the official start of football season. The official start. Which basically means it's the official start of fall. Like my parents would always say, like, oh, there was a cool breeze on coincidentally on September 15th. That was the start of fall. No, the official start of fall is the first day of Pac-12 Media Day. The only day. One day. Because that's when football season starts. And football season is the fall.
Yes, the official start of football season is Media Day. I don't want to shortchange summer quite as much as you are.
Summer sucks.
But I feel like we still have a couple months left in summer.
No, summer sucks. It's too hot, A. B, it's when all your favorite baseball teams go to die. Like they just start to, fade away, and then the only discussion in baseball is whether or not they're going to trade your best players. Like it's brutal. It is brutal. But we are back here on a Monday evening here on YouTube, and we're excited about another episode of RainofTroy.com. We've got Tim in the chat, Rama Murdy, Masters Ith 40, welcome. Finding on
Master Sith 40, Michael.
What's a Master Sith?
Master Sith like in Star Wars.
See, I don't watch your Star Trek. But welcome. Finding on MC, Kenny's in the chat. We got a bunch of people in the chat, so you can always watch us every Monday at 5 p.m. During the season, we'll be going double barrel Mondays and Wednesdays. Wednesdays, of course, the preview episode for the season, followed by the CarCast on Saturdays after the game. And then Mondays will be the Fallout episode where we go back and look at what happened in the game, open up the rant line, and so much more. Of course, you can call into the rant line this year at 1-818-643-7227. Save that number into your phone right now and get ready for all of those things. And you can join us here on YouTube with a membership. And if you join us on the membership, which is called the Rot Squad, you get bonus episodes, not only during the season, but every month of the year. We're going to do a bonus episode this week. Alicia, this week. I think Thursday night. Is that what we said? Thursday night?
I believe that is what we said.
Thursday night, 8 p.m. Pacific. You can join us for the first ever Rot Squad call-in show. Yes, a call-in show. It's going to be super fun. We're going to do it through Discord. We're super excited about it. If you are not a member, join and become a member today. You get to join not only our Discord, where you can talk USC football with us and other Rot Squad members, but you also get the bonus episodes, and you can participate in the call-in show. So you can do that on YouTube. I believe you got to do it on the desktop version. I don't think you can do it on the app, which is slightly frustrating. But join us for $4.99 a month. Helps grow the show. And you can become more entrenched in the rottenness. Does that work? The rottenness?
The rottenness. Yep.
Yeah. I like it.
Not rottenness. Rottenness.
Yeah, the rottenness. Mm-hmm. Anyways, let's get into everything that we got to talk about in this episode, which is a lot of Pac-12 Media Day stuff. Shall we? Let's start at the beginning with the good old news. All right, Alicia, we got to start with a roster update. The Trojans have a new roster update because the new media guide is out. A lot of new information being put out by the SID department. But the interesting thing, I think, is the position updates. There's a bunch of new position updates, most notably for Raleek Brown and Deuce Robinson. Raleek Brown going into his sophomore season, running back last year, one of the most exciting key returners on the USC offense, surely. But someone that we've talked about is sort of a gadget player. He can play at receiver. He can play in the slot. He can be out of the backfield. He can return kicks. He can do all those sort of things. He is listed now as a wide receiver, not a running back. And also listed as a wide receiver with him is Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end that the Trojans signed out of Pinnacle High in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked before about Deuce Robinson and the tight end of it all, and not being certain about his future there, especially after USC announced him signing and listed him as a wide receiver. We've talked about Raleek Brown and how it just it he's too much of a speed threat and a talent to have the touches that he had last year, and it's hard to see him
Mm-hmm.
get more touches at running back, considering who USC has there in the more traditional sense of running backs. And so both of these make a lot of sense. Raleek Brown in the slot sounds dangerous as all hell to me. Deuce Robinson as a mismatched nightmare, whether he's in the slot or moved around outside, is a mismatched nightmare. So I
Mm-hmm.
think this is just a reflection of USC being honest about the best way to deploy non-traditional players in instead of forcing them into traditional roles, accepting what they are, which is really just passing game weapons, and
Yeah.
going from there.
Yeah, and anyone can be a passing game weapon in an offense that uses the running backs out of the backfield and all of that. And then you add into the fact that the Trojans are, pretty deep at running back. SC brings in the transfers from South Carolina, Marshawn Lloyd. Austin Jones is back for his super senior season. You've got Darwin Barlow's back as a senior, the transfer from TCU as well. This is his third season at USC. You bring in the guys like Quentin Joyner and Amarian Peterson. SC's got guys in the backfield, and we talk about every single year that people are going to get hurt at running back. But so maybe you don't have the depth that you think you do right now, but there's still enough guys to have the depth. And then if you need to move Raleek Brown back there, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. So
Well, and there's nothing stopping you from putting him in the backfield. You do that
yeah,
with
yeah,
slot guys all the time. So why couldn't you do it with
right.
a converted
The
running
the
back who's
Rams
now
do
a
it with
receiver?
or did it with Robert Woods, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
USC has done it with a bunch of different guys.
Amon-Ra St.
Nelson
Brown.
Aguilar, yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all those guys have been used in the backfield. So it just makes perfect sense to me. And I kind of like I said, I kind of like the honesty of it.
Hmm. Yeah, and you look at the Deuce Robinson side of things, and he feels like the Jimmy Graham kind of tight end who is a tight end because he's a big body, but he's going to be lined up at receiver. We talked about this a few years ago about Drake London. Drake
Hmm.
London could have been a tight end when you just look at his body and how he and
And where
all
they were
all those
using
things.
him,
But
yeah,
the SC used him as if he was a tight end that was always a primary receiver, but that just makes him a receiver. So you might as well just list Deuce Robinson as a receiver then. So yeah, that's how the roster looks on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, there's more clarity because last year everybody was listed as a defensive back.
which is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Yeah, and I get it. It allows you to sort of list everybody together and have the flexibility to say who's going to be a corner and a safety and a nickelback, and all of those things. A nickelback and a puddle of mud, and no,
Yeah, I got where you or
Mm,
I got where you were going.
um, but now there's safeties, there's corners, and there's just DBs.
See, now I'm mad that I didn't make like a seether joke or something like that. Like it's making me seether.
Did that hinder this segment a little bit? Yeah.
It made just a little bit
Would
of
you
a
say it
blur.
stained it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's corners, and the corners are Damani Jackson, Jacoby Covington, Christian Roland Wallace, the transfer from Arizona, Traquan Fagans, and Malachi Crawford. It was mentioned at Media Day that Christian Roland Wallace could be moved around to different positions, but he is labeled as a corner. Then there's the safeties: Max Williams, Kalen Bullock, Jalen Smith, Bryson Shaw, and Zamarian Gordon. And then you've got guys who are just, quote, DBs. I imagine that these are guys who are not corners or safeties, or these are just the nickelbacks. We can we can sort of find that out as we go, but it's Zion Branch, Anthony Beavers, Prophet Brown, Sierra Wright, Christian Pierce, and Fabian Ross.
Yeah, and Sierra Wright is the interesting one there because he
Yeah.
was a starting corner for USC last year
Hmm.
and sort of penciled him in as a potential starting corner for USC this year, depending on how things were going to shake out. With how Christian Roland Wallace was sort of integrated and how other guys like Jacoby Covington and company were figured in. So I think he's the one I'm most interested in. Does this mean he's just gonna be a nickel for USC? There was the talk of Christian Roland Wallace being a nickel at media day as well. So this could just be like you said, they are sort of more filling more than one role, that they're not just going to be sort of your left corner or your right corner or whatever,
Right.
whatever designation that you want to
Well,
to
they could
to
still
give.
have that. This could just be a listing for Media Day, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
but
for the media guide, but still.
yeah. And it could it could just be one of those quirks of media guides where the people putting together the media guide aren't sure, so they just throw everybody in one. Like,
Right.
that's a whole other thing too. So yeah, I'm always interested to see how the DB designations shake out by the
Hmm.
end of like a fall camp.
Yeah.
But this does tell us a lot about where to expect certain players to be playing, and where not to expect them. So I sort of am now looking at the DB group and thinking, well, these are your nickel candidates. At least that's the way that I see it.
Yeah, that's the way it looks. We'll see, obviously, how that begins in week 0 against San Jose State, just about a month from now. Let's talk about the defensive line. A couple of things to mention on the defensive line. Corey Foreman is listed as a defensive lineman, and he's now at 235 pounds, which feels on the slender side.
Yeah, so they have the designation between like DL, the defensive lineman, and the rush ends. And Corey Foreman, if I remember correctly, was listed as a rush end last year, and he was like 250 last year, and now he's listed as a defensive lineman, and he's 235. I like, Romello Height is a rush end at 230. Jamil Muhammad is a rush end at 240. I'm just scrolling down the Braylon Shelby 235 rush end, DJ PB 230 rush end, um, Sam Green, the freshman, 240 rush end. You look at the rest of the defensive linemen, they're all like 250 at least. Like
Yeah,
Solomon Tuliaupupu's like the
he's the smallest
carrying
one at 250, but
yeah.
just about every. I mean, this is the same position group that has Kobe Pepe at 320, Bear Alexander at 305, Dejon Benton at 270. Yeah, he's sort of the outlier
I
there.
just I don't know where they're going to play him. If he is a defensive lineman, unless they expect him
Move around,
to move
be
around,
situational.
be situational, or to put on weight as the camp goes on. We shouldn't necessarily rely on like heights and weights that are listed on the roster for us to determine
Mellow height.
to determine positions. If that were the case, you would look at somebody like Eric Gentry and you would just say like, "There's no way he could be a linebacker. He should just move to tight end or something like that." Like,
Sure.
and that's just not the way that things work. I mean, you could say like you look at Max Williams at 5'9" and say, "How can he be a safety?" Like, no, you just have him in nickel. Like,
Well,
that's not how, and I would argue that there's, an argument for Max Williams just being a nickel, but, um, you can't just rely on the heights and weights things. But Corey Foreman at 235 doesn't make sense if they're gonna have him playing inside. It makes sense if he's a rush end outside linebacker.
mhm.
If he's supposed to be even a defensive end, that is very light. I don't know. I don't know. That's just I'm sort of banking on that number changing when the season, like, actually when we actually get a look at him in reality.
Yeah, I have multiple thoughts. I'm with you. I don't want to second guess like, I look at the media guide as, um, not as necessarily gospel because things can change. Also, it's not like the football side of things, is going to inform the SID side of things, like, literally on every little note, right?
Yeah.
Like, the football s the football people can change their mind on where people move. Just because it's in the media guide doesn't mean it's locked in stone. So, in that point, I you just have to take this for what it is. The second side of it, like, this would make more sense if it was a typo and he's 265 instead of 235 if you look at the numpad, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
Especially as a going into his junior year, like, you sort of accept the freshman being undersized on the defensive line because they haven't been in a
Yeah.
full college, like, weight program yet. And, like, Corey Foreman is now a junior, he's now an upperclassman. Like,
Mhm.
I I just don't know what the plan is for him. I wish I had more clarity about what the plan in actuality and in practice and like, where's the plan for him to succeed? I still need to sort of see that demonstrated.
Sure.
And
Well, the
yeah,
other thing is
playing at 235 doesn't feel like that's the way.
if he's gonna be moved around, it might make more sense to list him as a defensive lineman because that's the most vague descriptor of all those ones, right? Like, it's not like it's the defensive line group includes the tackles and the 3 techniques
And the
and the
nose,
5
yeah,
technique, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
all those positions are in there. So I don't know. We'll see. Again, we'll see against San Jose State where he is and how he fits into everything else. Um, Calix Rose in the chat says I'm worried about the D line and tight end. USC needs big guys. Well, SC might be without two more big guys. We're going to talk about this right now. We got a comment from Trojans First on YouTube last week in last week's episode that said, "I wonder what happened to Jamar Sakona. He's no longer on the roster, but I never heard of him entering the transfer portal. Maybe he quietly retired from football." So that was last week. I did some digging and found literally nothing about Jamar Sakona except for a tweet from my friend Chris Trevino who said that he was going to miss the spring game. That was it. Uh, the media guide comes out, and Sakona is listed as a lost squadman along with Colin Mobley, someone who's been in and out of the transfer portal but didn't leave earlier in the offseason. Now, Colin Mobley is listed as a lost squadman. Neither one of those guys are listed in the 24/7 Sports transfer portal. Uh, and I've seen nothing about Sakona about where he could land. There's no like tweets from other uh, beat writers of other schools or anything like that. So keep your eyes open. And yeah, I who knows?
Yeah,
We will see.
I tried to do some digging as well, couldn't find anything. But it is interesting that USC, we knew Colin Mobley was sort of in and out of the transfer portal. We weren't sure what the deal with him coming back in spring was. Maybe put sort of shop window stuff going on, maybe complete the semester academically, whatever it was that he needed to do. That's not the surprise. But Kobe Pepe was also supposed to be a guy who was going to be leaving, and he's now listed in
He's
the
back, yeah.
roster back. So, it is a bummer to lose both those guys, but it is big to get Kobe Pepe back. If we're talking about USC needing big bodies, Kobe Pepe
Hmm.
absolutely fits that mold. So that lessens the the sort of depth harm of losing these guys. But I do also yeah, I'm with you. Jamar Sakona, it's sort of a little bit mysterious, a little bit not sure what's going on there. But I mean, I figure we'll find out. We will eventually find out whether it's a transfer portal thing or a, we've seen guys medically retire, we've seen guys leave for a million other reasons. So,
Yeah. Mo
bummer because I was really excited about him.
most
But
recent thing I found was he was tagged in a post last month by Mason Cobb on Instagram. So,
I saw on Twitter he was getting tagged in posts from recruits and stuff like that who
yeah.
were doing visits and taking pictures with him and being hosted by him. So yeah, I don't know, but when you're listed as a squadman lost in the media guide, that pretty much is definitive. That doesn't
Yeah.
that sort of
This is a situation where the media guide is
is
gospel, right?
gospel. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are not on the roster, and you are not expected to be on the roster for the coming fall. So,
Right.
yeah, a bit of a mystery there. But like I said, I think getting Kobe Pepe back is sort of a big counterbalance to that on that defensive line. So we'll see which way things go for him, while also wishing those other two guys, the best in their future endeavors.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the defensive line, we've got new numbers, including Bear Alexander has a new number. The Georgia transfer. He's gonna be wearing number 90. The number famed by Ryan Nielsen, of course. Back in the 90s, my dad loved talking about how Ryan Nielsen, one N Nielsen 90, two N's Ennis Davis 99. And now there's Bear Alexander 90.
One in
There is one N, yes, that's right. And Jack Sullivan, only one N in Jack Sullivan,
99.
but he's wearing the 99
No.
nonetheless. New numbers for other guys. Traycon Fagans, the cornerback transfer from Alabama, is wearing 23. Mike Manuelos at 59. Famous Amos Talele, 75. Alani Noah, the offensive lineman, is at 77. Jacoby Lane, wide receiver out of Mesa, Arizona, which is just East Phoenix, of course. 89. And then Dejan Lafitte, 91. So there you go. The other
Numbers.
numbers we've talked about before of the guys who came in earlier in the spring that you might not have remembered are Anthony Lucas is number 6. Um, with Marshawn Lloyd is a 0. Zach Branch is number 1. Yeah, so there's a bunch of new numbers. You can check the rest over at USCTrojans.com.
Mason Cobb,
Um,
number
oh yeah,
13.
Mason Cobb number 13, which means that he won't. Caleb Williams won't be the last person to wear number 13 at USC. Mason Cobb will at least. Well, they will wear the
Well,
number together this year,
yeah.
but like he was the last person given the 13. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's move on at least until 2055 when SC is trying to recruit Keyshawn Johnson the third or something like that.
Yeah.
So all right, let's move on to the uh, Pac-12 Media Poll. The Pac-12 Media Poll was released alongside all of the other Pac-12 Media Day festivities. Once again, USC is listed as the pick in the conference, the number one team, 25 first place votes, followed by Washington with 4 first place votes. Utah had more first place votes with 6, but they still are picked to finish third, followed by Oregon fourth. Those are the only 4 schools with a first place vote. Nobody picked the Oregon State Beavers, who are the highest ranked team without a first place vote, fifth. Then it's UCLA 6, Wazoo 7, Arizona 8, 9 Cal, 10 ASU, 11 Colorado, and running out the 12 is Stanford. Alicia, your thoughts on the poll?
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer to pick USC as the favorite to win the conference. You return the Heisman Trophy winner. You return the bulk of that offense that Lincoln Riley brought to USC that was just outstanding and had room to get better.
Yeah.
Um, you assume that USC's defense will be better I think is a fair if you're a media member, you're coming in
Yeah.
assuming that the defense will be better, and if that's the case, USC has to be ahead of the rest. Um, After USC, yes, I don't I think Washington, Utah, Oregon, throw them in a hat, toss them up, and
Mhm.
randomly pick. Um, Oregon State, very, very, very solidly number 5.
Yes, I agree.
UCLA, very, very solidly number 6. And then
Tend to
everybody after
agree.
that, I think definitely Wazoo, Arizona are like the
Would be 7 and 8, like, I
potential.
kind of agree, yeah.
And then to me, Cal, ASU, Colorado, and Stanford. I, yeah, sure. I think you could argue for a lot of different mixes of that ranking. Um, I don't think we have any concept of what Kenny Dillingham is going to be able to do at Arizona State
Mhm.
with the roster that he inherits. Justin Wilcox is a capable football coach, but also Cal is a mess, and I don't know
Yeah.
what aspirations you can have if you are Cal. Colorado is Colorado. Who the heck knows what's going to happen with Deion Sanders? He brought in talent. That's the big thing. And Stanford, I think Troy Taylor's getting a lot of getting slept on, but also that Stanford roster. Again, I don't know what aspirations you're supposed to expect from that roster. So while I think that the hire was a good hire for Stanford in terms of where they are in sort of a realistic sense, um, yeah, I think it's entirely within the realm of possibility that Troy Taylor and finishes bottom of the league with that Stanford roster that he needs to sort of rebuild.
Yeah.
So I have no complaints. I have no complaints. I don't know that I would do it differently. And I think any nitpicky thing that I would do differently, like maybe putting Utah ahead of Washington, is hard to do if I don't know the state of Cam Rising's knee.
That's the thing, like, so I think they nailed it. I think there's very clearly several tiers in the Pac-12, and you have the top 4 that I think is SC ahead of the other 3, but not by much. Really,
Mhm.
it's really pick either of the top 4, to be quite honest. And yeah, then you have Oregon State, then you have UCLA, then you have Wazoo and Arizona, then you have Cal and ASU, and Colorado and Stanford are just the last 2, like by a long shot, I think. Um, and it seems right. Y- as much as I think that you could put Oregon ahead of Utah, I am not in the business, and I will say this over and over and over again on this podcast
Don't do it.
this year. I am not in the business of thinking that Utah is not going to win the conference or whatever. Like
I have too much
w-
respect for
we
Kyle Whittingham.
we did it too many times about Stanford. Oh, this is going to be the year that Stanford takes a step back, and then 2015 happens. So Utah has won the Pac-12 the last what 3 or 4 full seasons. If we take out the COVID year, like don't discount Utah. Like don't do it. Even with the Camp Rising stuff. I know you want to. I know you want to. I know they come to the Coliseum. They don't always fare well at the Coliseum, but don't do it. Don't discount them at all. So, yeah, the media poll did well. Kenny says hot take: ASU won't finish 10th. I see him being 6-6. I That's the most ASU thing ever, finishing 6-6. I will say their schedule rough, rough. The two misses that they have are Oregon State and Stanford. Those are not the two misses that you want in your schedule if you're going to be 6-6. Like you want to be able to play Stanford and get those as one of your wins. ASU hosts Oregon. They go at Utah, at Washington, and they host SC. I think those are 4 automatic, probably automatic losses. But everything else, yeah, they could compete and nab a win over UCLA or Wazoo or whatnot. So, all right, let's ready to move on. Any other
Uh,
thoughts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say something about ASU that's sort of not important because I agree. I think you have sort of 4 built-in losses, and then you're depending on beating UCLA team that I think could I see it happening? Yes, because 'cause we've seen UCLA lose that game,
Mhm.
that kind of game before. And Washington State's hard to pin down, and we've already talked about Cal and Colorado and Arizona and those. Like, there are certainly
Yeah.
wins there, but also each one of those teams can be looking at ASU and saying the exact same thing.
Yeah. 100%. All right, let's move on to the preseason All Pac-12 teams. First team selections. USC has 5 of them. Quarterback Caleb Williams, the returning Heisman Trophy winner, obviously going to be picked there as the first team All Pac-12 quarterback. Even though this Pac-12 is loaded at quarterback, there's Caleb Williams, uh, there's Bo Nix, there's Michael Penix, there's Cam Rising. Like, 4 dudes on the big 4 teams that, any one of them at the end of the year, I think, could be the first team quarterback. But Caleb Williams, the Heisman winner, of course, is going to get the nod in the preseason. Wide receiver Dorian Singer gets first team selection. Makes sense. Kalen Bullock at safety. And then SC gets, look at this, SC with 2 special teamers. What world is this? What world are we living in? Raleek Brown as the all-purpose special teamer, like return guy, and then punter Eddie Toplicki, the ASU transfer, first team All Pac-12 punter.
Yeah, I think the punter is easy because wasn't he first team All Pac-12 last year?
I think
Like,
so.
I think when it comes
Yeah.
to a punter, you just continue on there. And yeah, like we talked about Riley Brown, he's a very dynamic playmaker, and USC is going to try and find ways to get the ball into his hands. And special teams is going to have to be one of those ways that they try to utilize him. So
Hmm.
yeah, definitely the special teams ones make sense for given what they are. Um, I think that Dorian Singer is an obvious choice. I do think that Mario Williams is getting a bit slept on here. I know that his production wasn't out of this world last year, but I think the injury had so much to play in that. And like he is coming off a devastating special teams error for USC
Sure.
in the bowl game. So like I get it,
I
but I do think he's being slept on a little bit here.
So he's not one of the second teamers. The second teamers, USC has 5 selections for there. It's the 3 offensive linemen: Justin Dedich, Jonah Monheim, and Jarrett Kingston, the Washington State transfer. Linebacker, you have Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry, all of them second teamers. Um, Mario Williams doesn't get a second team nod, nor does he get an honorable mention
Yeah.
nod. Honorable mentions are Austin Jones, Bear Alexander, Keon Bars, Shane Lee, and Christian Roland Wallace. But I will go to bat for the Mario Williams snub here. Um, Not as a sign of anything that he like about him, but like Rome Odunze from Washington is the other first team wide receiver. He absolutely should be. Like, he is on the Blitnikoff, like,
Oh yeah, he
short
led the
list. Like there's loaded, dudes in the conference. Jacob Cowing from Arizona, along with Dorian Singer, is the second team guy. Like, Jalen McMillan also at Washington. Like, there's just too many dudes. There's too many dudes at wide
yeah.
receiver in the conference right now. That there's not only too many dudes on SC's team at wide receiver that he's got to compete with, like with Dorian Singer getting the first team nod, but just
I just think
everywhere.
if I was gonna predict a player who was not mentioned at all in the All Pac-12 preseason team
Hmm.
that I would predict will be a first team selection at the end of the season, I think Mario Williams is that guy.
That's fair. That's fair. That we will see how that goes. By the way, I think the person that I would say is more of a snub is Taj Washington.
Absolutely, yes,
Like, I think
but
he could have deserved an honorable mention at least. But
yes, Taj
I
Washington
we
is constantly being slept on. This is, yes, absolutely a trend. Yeah.
which is good. Don't doubt Taj
Yeah.
Washington, because the more you do, the more he'll come
He'll
back and
kill
beat
you,
you.
yeah.
Yeah. So All right, that's gonna wrap up the news element. Of course, there's still a lot of stuff from Pac-12 Media today to talk about. We've isolated quotes from each of USC's representatives: head coach Lincoln Riley, quarterback Caleb Williams, and linebacker Mason Cobb. Here's what Lincoln Riley had to say about the athletic director search. Quote: "The next AD coming in here is going to have really positive things to work with. You get so many of the programs who are really strong, who have really good coaches at the school. The major sports are all in major upswings. The table's set. You can tell that there's interest in the position. Don't know what it's going to be like what it was like a few years ago, but people outside realize the table's set too." Um, and he also said you get calls from people in the industry, and there's a lot of interest in that position. Yeah, I think that sounds about right.
Yeah, you look at USC, the natural advantages that USC has. You have theoretically a football, basketball, and baseball head coaches that you don't have to replace anytime soon. That you can rely on to sort of carry the revenue banner. And yeah, there's stuff to clean up, absolutely, and I think that's probably the biggest barrier to the job is the sort of cultural question marks that are present that need to be cleaned up and cleaned out. But if you're talking about a major program, a major university
Mhm.
that has so much going for it, and in general is sort of set up well, I agree with Lincoln Riley. You've got to have people who are very interested in this job. There's no reason to not be very interested in this job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big revenue paydays with the Big Ten
The
coming,
Big Ten. Yeah.
all of that already sorted out. Like, yeah, I think,
Also, have you heard that Essie is in Los Angeles? Have you ever
yeah,
heard that part?
I mean, once or twice, I may have noticed.
Yeah.
LA's
Uh,
pretty dang sweet.
this is true. Caleb Williams, USC's Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, asked about the defensive line and says, "Speaking on my side of it, the D line's gotten a lot better with his technique. Guys we brought in just want to make plays. Guys understanding what they're doing, how they're supposed to do it. The D line is getting back there. They're getting back there faster, a lot stronger, whatever the case may be. So it forces myself to progress in my reads faster. It's been making me better as a player." That sounds good.
Yeah, this is where I go on a little bit of a rant about media day and
Uh-oh.
the quote, like, pessimistic Alicia is out in full force. It's not pessimism. It's not. It's stock neutral. It's neutral Alicia to steal
Family Feud, rest in
a
peace. Yeah.
term from, yeah, from Family Feud, from our friend Keelier
Sorry,
and
Keely.
yeah, sorry Keely, and Shotgun Spratling and those folks.
Chris Trevino.
Chris Trevino, friend of the pod. Uh, It's stock neutral. All quotes from Media Day, take them neutrally. They
Mhm.
mean nothing. There are little tidbits that you find out that are interesting. The one that we got from Mason Cobb coming up, I thought was sort of like oh, that's interesting, that's new. I wouldn't have known that otherwise. This is great. But anyone talking about like, oh yeah, the defensive line is going to be so much better. The defense is going to be so much better. The wide receivers are going to be so much better. The offensive line is going to be so much better. The quarterback's coming along so well. Blah blah blah. All of it is all. What do you think they would say? They the point of media day is to go there and to make things sound happy, sound good. They are never going to tell you the truth if the truth is not good news.
Mhm.
So you can ask Caleb Williams about the defensive line or the defense in general, whether or not they're getting better, and you will always get the answer that he gave. No shade on Caleb Williams. Absolutely, the answer he should have given. Any other answer would have been
Right.
inappropriate for someone in his position, but also all of that stuff I can do without as far as media day goes. Like to the point where we were sort of talking about like what would we ask people if we were media day this year, and my whole thought was just like my overriding thing would just be to ask questions that I'm not going to get an answer that I know I cannot trust the factualness of it.
Yeah. You get player speak and coach speak. And that that's what you get. Like you said, that's what they're supposed to say.
Yeah.
It's not like they're purposely, not
No.
providing things. Well, they are, but like that's just what it is,
Yeah.
right? Like every spring camp, we talk about this every time. Every spring camp is the hardest that they've ever worked.
Mhm.
Um, you're never gonna have somebody like come out of nowhere and say that, oh yeah, the spring camp sucked.
Yeah, well,
Like
this
our
team,
new transfers, like
they're not
I
as good as
honestly,
last year's.
I don't think they're as good as last year's, and
Yeah.
quite honestly, like our O line is so much better than them. Like,
Yeah.
gee, like nobody's gonna say that.
Yeah.
Also, they don't even know if that's true, and
Yeah.
they
It's a zero-sum game in spring and fall camp.
Bear Alexander has not put on pads and gone head up with the USC offensive lineman yet.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Linebacker Mason Cobb. He talked about team speed. This is a tweet from Brandon Marcello. It says USC linebacker Mason Cobb told me today that every player in the Trojans roster has hit 18 miles an hour or higher in a sprint this offseason, according to their GPS tracking system. Georgia transfer defensive lineman Bear Alexander hit 20 miles an hour. Hopefully they're not like going through like our parking lot in our apartment complex. That's got like
Yeah.
a 5 mile an hour speed
Yeah.
limit.
Okay, number 1. I'm gonna admit this outright.
I don't know what the hell
I
18
don't
miles
know
an hour
what that
like.
means. I
No,
don't know.
I could not
I
tell you.
assume because it was tweeted and said that that is good. It
Sure,
sounds good. It
sure.
like my brain sees 18 miles an hour running and goes like, "Yeah, fast,
Well,
good."
this is like when you get blood work and the doctor's like, okay, so your whatever level is 0.764, and you're like,
Like it's
what does that mean?
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't
Um
tell you.
the fact that Bear Alexander hit 20 miles an hour sounds real good. Bear Alexander's a 300-pound dude. Like the hitting any speed at that, at that size sounds super impressive to me. So
Sure.
this is all well and good. I wish I had more data to compare this to what um
So
s-
I just googled Usain Bolt, 27.33 miles per hour.
so I just wrote about this though, that the top speed
There's
in the
there's
NFL.
a chart. There's a chart. Okay, ready? Hold on. I'm sorry. We'll go right back
Okay.
to this. So cheetahs, of course, over 70. Speed limit on the motorway in the UK is 70. Uh, a pronghorn antelope 60. African lion about 55,
So
a greyhound 44-ish, a domestic cat is 30, Usain Bolt 27, an elephant 25. See, this is a prime example. If you told me that an elephant was 5 miles an hour faster than Bear Alexander, I'd go, that sounds concerning, but apparently not.
okay, to put this back into perspective. Now, and again, more perspective. This is NFL players in pads during a game. So take it for what for the sprints that USC's guys are doing are probably in shorts and t-shirts. So it is different, but the top speed of a player according to NFL next gen stats last season in the NFL was 22.1 miles per hour. That was Paris Campbell. Kenneth Walker hit 22.09, Brees Hall hit 21.87, Deshaun Jackson hit
How often are
21.72.
you ever going to hit top speed? When you're pulling away?
Well, most of these are
Oh, like
long.
you're a receiver running a go route?
Yes, but Paris Campbell's was a 26-yard rush, so making me think that might have been like a sweep or something like that. So, picking up more speed, but yeah, I think that you're looking at guys who are running faster than I can run, and that sounds like a good thing.
Tim in the chat says, in terms of a 100-meter dash, 18 miles an hour is 12.4 seconds. 20 miles an hour is 11.2, assuming my calculator was correct. That all makes sense. But I would
I still have
imagine
no way to
Bear
quantify that in
Alexander
my head.
is not running 20 miles an hour for 100 meters.
No, no, I think
He
that's
might be running
reaching max speed of 20 miles an hour.
like there might be a 5-yard stretch where he hits the top speed.
Yeah.
Dan
But if
in the
you're Bear
chat,
Alexander, that's all you need. Like if you're a
right?
defensive lineman, you just need to be able to reach 20 miles an hour at some point in your rush.
Exactly, unless you're scooping scoring. Like, yeah, when are you gonna need it?
Yeah.
It's explosiveness more than anything that I think is necessary for D lineman. Dan in the chat says GPS isn't accurate at that short distance unless you work for Raytheon. Yes, I don't disagree either. But yeah,
hey, I'm sure they're paying a lot of money to Catapult or whatever GPS tracking company that they're currently using. So I would hope it's somewhat
well, and I'm
accurate.
sure that Catapult has some sort of guideline that where they can say this is average, this is all these things, and if this is the a talking point that SC players have, whether that's a metric that they've remembered as being important, then that probably means that it's good compared to other Catapult numbers, which is the important part about the important part about what's going on.
I just want to tip my cap to USC's long snapper because if they're also getting to the 18-mile-an-hour sprints, then things are doing okay.
The long snappers are like they're fit dudes.
Are they fast? Do we consider them fast?
Yeah, like
okay.
They're not like big offensive linemen. The long snappers.
They're not like little dudes either.
I mean, comparatively speaking,
okay.
There's no size requirement for a long snapper.
Yeah.
So you could be just like an average Joe size if you can snap it well. Like you don't need to be perfect, especially like on a a punt. A lot of times those guys are running down to be not literally the gunner, but like they're running down to make a tackle anyways. So.
Okay.
All right. Let's move on. Go to the mailbag. If you're watching us live on YouTube, be sure to and ask your questions and all of that.
You've got mail.
All right. Let's start with a rant line call. At least we got another rant line call. Of course, the rant line 818-643-7227. Suck it, What's Brewing Show. See, it doesn't work, Jake.
It doesn't work.
Our buddy Jake from the What's Brewing Show, of course, not only steals all of our content where we put out an episode that's previously on Rain of Troy Radio, and they do a previously on the What's Brewing Show or whatever. Like, not only did they steal that, but he's upset that we didn't say Suck it, What's Brewing Show last week or 2 weeks ago when we unveiled the phone number, but
we're not
coordinating like before.
We're not coordinating.
It doesn't ring.
Yeah, it's not the same. 7227 is not.
Just UCLA people always wanting to be the victim.
Mm-hmm.
Always wanting come on. All right. We got a call from Dan in Valley Village.
God, I'm so happy the rave line is back. Woohoo! This is Dan from Valley Village. I am so happy this is back. Now I can vomit my thoughts immediately, and you'll be forced to listen to them, and I could not be more excited for that. Welcome back, Rave Line.
I love the way he says Rave Line.
Beautiful.
We need to figure out, is Dan in VO? Is he a VO guy, voiceover guy? He's got a
voice.
Rave Line.
He's either in voiceover or he's like a DJ, like an MC, like a wedding MC, or he does a lot of hosting duties at
we need
events.
We need to cut that just to Rave Line.
Rave Line. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, call us 818-643-7227. 818-643-7227. You can call us, ask us your questions for the pod, or of course rant and rave and do all those things during, before, after games, and we can cut it up and put it into a little montage. So that's how things work here at Rain of Troy Radio. Let's get into the rest of the mailbag, which is anything that you guys are typing away over on YouTube. So we got some messages. We'll start with Glenn, who says, will Larry Scott Pac-12 legacy ever improve?
No, that legacy is dead. He sort of lost his chance to make good. I Yeah,
I,
because he'd have to come back and be really
there's
good. Like, what opportunity is he gonna have?
there's one way I think it could improve, but it's not a realistic improvement because people would not give him the benefit of the doubt. And that is the Pac-12 continuing to make the same mistakes that they made during the Larry Scott era, and people realizing what I always freaking said. The problem is not necessarily Larry Scott. It's the people giving him raises and the people prolonging him and the people hiring him and the people saying yes to all the decisions that he did, because essentially Larry Scott works for the Pac-12 CEOs and the Pac-12 presidents. If they are doing work that, like, if they approve his work, then it's the blood's on their hands. And so, like, it's like the with commissioners. Rob Manfred sucks, right? Well, who does Rob Manfred work for? He works for the owners to do their dirty work, for him to be the punching bag, so they're not the punching bag. Like, that's sort of how it works. And with Larry Scott, yes, he had big ideas that I think he sold the Pac-12 schools on. At the same time, they were okay with doing all those things, and it's not like the Pac-12 had some revolutionary leaders before with Hansen and all those guys before. So I think that it could have improved if people realized, well, this is just the Pac-12 thing and not necessarily completely Larry Scott's thing. But I don't think that benefit of the doubt will ever be given to him because his name is so toxic. And secondly, the Pac-12's ending. It's over. It's over. I cannot imagine the Pac-12 like lasting longer into the future. It's over. It's over. Also, I'm really bummed that I didn't was in such a rush before the episode. I didn't hook up the soundboard, so we don't have Cameron from Frisco, Texas, saying, "Can I blame Larry Scott for this?" So would have been a perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, remember Murdy says if SC were playing the Big Ten this year, where would we be picked to finish?
Oh, hold up. Have they had media? They haven't had their media days, right?
They have. I looked up preseason rankings and I didn't exactly find it as easily as I wanted to, but um,
Um, hmm.
I is it just third? I think it's third.
Well, yes. I
Well,
mean,
first of all, there's multiple questions
realistically,
here.
the
Are there
AP.
divisions? Is SC playing in divisions? Because if they're playing in divisions and they are going to potentially miss both Ohio State and Michigan because the SC would be in the West or something like that, I think you can make an argument that SC is second, maybe first, probably not first, but probably second, maybe second. But realistically, I think SC would be third. I think Michigan, Ohio State, SC. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
Ahead of Penn State, but behind those other two.
yeah, 100%. I I sort of think about what the AP poll, AP Top 25 will look like. I
Mm-hmm.
don't expect Penn State to be ahead of USC. So if that's the case, then yeah, you have USC at number 3 behind Ohio State and Michigan, definitely behind Michigan.
Yeah.
Maybe I think you could maybe, if you really wanna stake, a lot of, I think incorrectly to a point, a lot of faith in quarterbacks. Certainly, you could put USC ahead of Ohio State if you really wanted to. Um, but, I still think USC has a lot more to prove on defense, so, I personally wouldn't, but yeah, I think that'd be a fair sort of 2nd or 3rd.
So I'm looking at this is the way too early college rankings for 2023 from NCAA.com,
Mhm.
which was put out a couple weeks ago. They have Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, Penn State 5,
Well, that's bad.
and SC8. But the crazy thing is, like, that is not madness because I've seen Penn State like as high as 5 in a lot of these rankings. So I I think
I
that like the only thing I'm sure of is that Michigan is ahead of us.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think Ohio State should be too, but
I
there
to
are people that have put Penn State over SC. Like that is not a unanimous thing.
Yeah. Uh,
Either way, I think even if you were fourth, uh, consider that fourth in the
it's
Big
like
Ten
fourth,
is first in the Pac-12.
but it's like fourth the way that Oregon is fourth
Right.
in the
Like
Pac-12.
like
Like, that doesn't
Oregon
exclude
is
you
fourth, but like I
as
would
first.
still like wager to put a fiver on Oregon to win the conference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Uh, to shout out my colleague at fansided.com, Cody Williams. He did a projected top 25 for the going into the season. He has Georgia number 1, Michigan number 2. He has Florida State number 3, USC number 4, Alabama number 5, Ohio State number 6, and LSU 7, Texas 8. He is very low on the Buckeyes. Clemson
you
9.
mean the Nittany Lions?
Sorry, Nittany Lions 10.
Yeah, I've seen Penn State bounce all the way, between 5 and 10 usually. So yeah, we will see. I mean, I guess we won't see us in the Big Ten this year, but we'll see
What the
how
rankings look
how
like,
Penn
yeah.
State looks and where they are and NBA people and that stuff. I think the coaches poll usually comes out around the beginning of August, and the AP poll about 3 weeks before the season, so middle of August. Walter Clark in the chat says people who have seen Corey Foreman say he's a lot bigger than 235. He's
That's
not
good to
bigger than
hear.
335, but bigger than 235.
235. That's good to hear. 235 sounds way too light. Yeah, I would hope it's closer to 245, which is what he was at last year, but that's good.
All right, let's wrap this episode up with a question we got from Dave Schwartz. What is the best restaurant with an orange sign near the Coliseum?
This I don't know because I don't like
So let's
so
get into
many.
the orange sign conversation.
Okay, we can have the orange sign.
Let's my backstory. So you are of the mindset that the best Mexican restaurants, and usually this tends to be like takeout level Mexican places.
Yeah.
The best Mexican restaurants are orange sign established. Like
I'm gonna
their sign is orange.
okay. I'm gonna put a pause on that a little bit because
Because you realize that there's other places that have
no,
orange signs.
it's more a sense. If you're looking at a Mexican restaurant, if it
Mhm.
has an orange sign, you are in good hands. It's not that it's going to be the best relative to the other best that are out there. It's
Sure.
just you are in good hands. You are not getting bad Mexican from a place that has an orange sign. That's more where my perspective
So
is coming from.
so this comes from your perspective as a valley.
Yes,
I had
which
never
is to
seen
be
an
fair.
orange sign Mexican
Yeah,
place until I moved to the valley, and then there's La Fragata and El Chavo and like all these places that are like the orange sign.
yeah.
And La Fragata and El Chavo are great, like they're very good. I give that to you. They have orange signs. But as a South Bay person, it's yellow signs.
See, and Dan says La Barca has a yellow sign,
Yeah,
which
yellow and red. Like
the whole discussion was brought up because a certain Twitter account that's usually just a sort of troll was doing things about like the best Mexican restaurant on each near each campus, whatever. They have the Barca for USC, which I think is a perfectly acceptable. I think a lot of people would say Toronto's or current the artist formerly known as Toronto's
sure.
now El Huero, right?
El Güero, yeah, it's a racial.
Yeah. Um, well, and like Dan says, like El Burrito Jr. El Burrito Jr. is
Yes.
absolutely
LBJ has a yellow and
you're
red
in
sign.
good hands. My perception of
Specialty all day, baby.
Like, when I go to El Burrito Junior, I get exactly what I want in terms of, like, I'm in good hands. I know what I'm gonna order. I know what I'm gonna get. I know it's gonna be
Big
fine.
round chips.
Yeah.
That place is Taco Bell. Right? No, they've gone purple, but
It's
used
more purple,
used to
yeah.
be yellow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Del Taco, yellow and red. I think yellow and red for me is mostly like what Mexican restaurants like
Well, what do yellow and red make when you put them together?
well, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
They some places like let's merge them together. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yellow and red psychologically make you hungry. This is why a lot of fast food places are red. Wendy's, McDonald's, um, Carlitos, all those are yellow and red for the most part. Um, but I think another Mexican place in Torrance that has a lot of like cult followers is Taco Sinaloa, yellow and red sign. Even though I think they've redone their stuff, but yellow and red sign. A lot of red writing, Lacapien, Old Torrance, red sign. Yeah. Anyway, so what's the best orange sign place near us?
I don't
To go
know.
back to Dave's question.
I don't know because everything's changed around USC. And like you said, like, and I hadn't necessarily thought about it. My orange sign perception, very much the places that I sort of have grown up around
Sure.
in the valley and the vast stretches of the valley. By the way, like the orange sign place that we would go to when we were living further north in the valley, also outstanding, hit the mark. So,
It is weird to me how different areas have different ways of, like, stylizing their Mexican restaurants. So, in Arizona, there's Filiberto's, which is, like, the gold standard of Mexican takeout, like a Mexican takeout chain in Arizona. However, not only do you have Filiberto's, you have Filibertas, uh, Rigobertos, um, Juanibertos, like, Roberto's, Berto,
what's up with Berto?
like
And
every every name imaginable. We have that a little bit in California. I know that San Diego has this thing too, because I think the original one is Alberto's. There's a lot of Alberto's in the LA area. They're really good. They're very similar to Filiberto's. So Filiberto's kind of like branched into Arizona and then became the mainline canonical like chain in Arizona that everyone ripped off. And here it's Alberto's because like in Harbor City, there's an Alberta's. It's like this is not the regular Alberto's with the script writing and the whole thing. So like it's just weird that like why does everyone end up ripping off the same exact thing? It's weird. It's weird. Like why are I always talk about how I think In and Out is wildly overrated because there's a million, you know, mom and pop burger places in LA, not in the valley by the way. They don't exist here and it's very frustrating. But
it's his biggest gripe
and it's
about
horrible.
me pulling him into the valley.
Yes.
It's
It's
the lack of a Louis or a Steve's or a
big
Bill's.
big shout out to Sleepmaker says I'm outside of
The Filiberto's.
Beartooth right now. The Philly Bears is
Yeah.
awesome. I love their beans. Their beans are A plus. The in the South Bay and in most of the LA basin, there's a bunch of burger places named after a random dude's name. Your Steve's, your Ted's, your Tam's, your Bills. Like they're just like random dudes' names. You don't have that in the valley. They don't exist. The only thing that's here is In and Out and Tommy's.
There's one I know
There's
there
one
is
place on
there
Oxnard
there's
that's
that's called
Bill's.
Bill's, but
Yeah,
it's only open
in the
from, like,
afternoon. Like,
10 to 2 on, like,
get out of here.
Monday through
Get out of
Friday,
here.
but not on Tuesdays, but, like, it's a whole thing. So,
You don't
yeah,
actually want clientele if you're only open 11 to 2.
yeah, USC Glenn in the chat says, "Why not?" Like,
Why not?
why not?
Which is named after Why Not in Torrance is named for Tony, and it's
It's
backwards.
backwards.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So
and why not? A plus. I miss those places. They have drive-throughs, like, they have a great why do I need to go In and Out when there's a freaking line that's down you know what I'm saying? Like, it's great. And my personal favorite burger place in LA, of course, Louis Louis Carson and Normandy. kiss. The best
I
recommendation ever.
I will shout out their corn dog.
Heavenly corn dog.
Reconceptualized corn dogs
Well, you
for
weren't
me.
a corn dog person.
No, because I got
Shocking.
sick off of a corn dog when I was a kid. We had corn dogs for dinner, and I didn't really care for them because they were just the frozen kind, whatever, that my mom would get from, like, Costco or whatever, and then we went to Catalina the next day, and I threw it all up, and it was just, like, the next morning, and I have bad it's just, like, corn dogs don't make me feel good, but, like,
In the water for the harbor porpoise.
yeah, pretty much, and, yeah, the corn dog from Louise reconceptualized what a corn dog could taste like to
First of all, the other thing the Valley doesn't have is, like, even though I think there might be one at Sherman Oaks one, maybe Sherman Oaks,
me. Galleria?
not the Galleria, the other one that I don't know the name.
The, Fashion Square
Sure. Um,
on Riverside?
yeah, the, hot dog on a stick.
Yeah, I
Hot dog on a stick
if
is an
it's there, it was
iconic
not there
place.
growing up.
It's iconic, iconic. It's great, and they've been going away,
I also
but
hated malls growing up, so I just didn't.
they wear the goofy outfits.
I've seen it. I've
It's
seen
so
what it
good.
looks like now.
It's like a cheese dog. You ever gotten a cheese dog? Oh man! All right, we gotta end this thing and go get dinner.
Yeah,
So, all
clearly.
right. Thanks for listening. As always, we'll be back next week with what are we doing next week? Next week on the pod will be episode 493, which is called Camp Begins. We've already named our pod. Camp Begins.
Camp
Because
begins on Friday, July 28th.
yeah, which is this
So,
Friday. We're talking
yeah.
about the beginning of fall camp, and then the following week, 2 weeks from today, August 7th, wrong A month, August 7th. We'll do our preseason roundtable with our buddies, Jake Merrifield from the Whisper Intro, and Kenny Martin, formerly of Traveler Hits Thursdays. And if I had my soundboard set up that I didn't do, I could press the THT music,
Mhm.
which we'll get the jingle
Yeah.
ready to go on August 7th. And then following that, August 14th, we start I would say 2 days, 2 weeks. We start 2 weeks. August 14th as our offensive preview. August 16th, our defensive preview. The following week, August 21st, episode 497 will be season predictions episode. So everyone who hops in the chat and they're like, how many wins is FC going to win this year? Hey, and we're like, back later. There you go. August 21st. We'll let you
We are coming up quick
know.
on episode 500, by the way.
500, quote unquote.
500,
Yeah.
500 and probably like 89 or something.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be the Nevada preview. Super exciting for a 500th episode. But if you don't want to wait for us that long, we'll be back Thursday night, 8 p.m. A members only show here on YouTube. The first ever Rain Detroit Radio call-in show for the Rock Squad. You can join us $40 a month, $4.99 I'll get you to join the Rot Squad here on YouTube and become a member. Help support the show, and you get content like the couple. So, Dan in Valley Village, you can call in and talk to us.
Get in those reps before the season starts and to call into the rant line when you have an actual rant or rave following
It'll
or
be
during
live.
the game.
Yeah.
Like, get those reps in early. It's an intimidating thing calling into the number and
It'll
learning
be
how it all
intimidating.
works. Yeah.
Oh my God, what if they say something I don't like? Like they say that I don't know, like onions belong in food or something.
I mean, I like onions in food. This is not so bad to me.
By the way, Glenn says teriyaki burger from Rascals on Torrance Boulevard. Yes. Love Rascals. God, I miss the South Bay. We could be back in the South Bay. The Valley not as cool as the South Bay.
No, the Valley's fine.
No, literally not as cool as the South Bay.
Well,
You don't
this
get
is
the
true.
daily
The Valley
breeze.
is not as cool as the South Bay in that sense, but
All right. Until next time, we will see ya.